Welcome to the Rich Report, a podcast with news and information on the world of big data. Today, my guests are from Bit Yota. We have the CEO of the company, Dev Patel, and Poulomi Damany, who's the VP of Products at the company. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Rich. I'm looking forward to telling you everything about BitYota.
Well, terrific. Dev, I was looking at your background here. You've got a long history at places like Yahoo. So, what I thought we'd do is, why don't we just go through your slides, tell us about the company, and then we'll follow that with Q&A.
Absolutely, Rich. I'll tell you the kind of problems we're solving for this space that we commonly refer to as big data. The kinds of the solution we're offering to this market, the customers that we have, the market segments which see value in our offering, a little bit about the company from a background perspective and the team. So let's go on to slide 2, and that's where I'll give you a summary of the company and then go into subsequent detail of the product and technology and the use cases. So today, often people talk about big data, and people talk about various things when it comes to big data. We've got the 3 V's that often people talk about. However, a lot of customers in our experience are just struggling to get real meaning in data. They look at analytics on data from different sources. They look at analytics on data from their transactional systems, and the transactional systems are very good at what they do, but they're not able to get answers to what seems like complex questions. But it could be as simple as, hey, tell me what my users are doing between the hours of X and Y, and tell me how those users, when they interact with other users, improve the engagement or productivity or revenue on the application or website. So those kinds of things are commonly referred to as analytics. And they're a problem because when a company starts to do that, they're often faced with either a big cost of implementation of an analytical system or a big headache of being able to figure out what is the right system, how do you right size it, what is the right hardware over which you should provision the software, and so on. So the answer to what we would say would be simple questions that a business should be able to ask suddenly becomes complicated. BitYota is a data warehouse service for big data analytics. It's a platform as a service where we've taken away the cost and headache of anyone who wants to implement such a service, such a capability, by offering a service in the cloud. In the cloud, our customers can start off very small and scale. We offer a high service level where the customer can simply rely on accessing our service through a query capability, which is very easy and understandable, and a de facto standard called SQL. That's our solution in the cloud. Our customers are typically in mobile apps, areas where there is a lot of big data, e-commerce, advertising, marketing services, and games. This is where our customers find value in our technology and are able to answer the big data analytics questions to help their business be more informed than currently it is today. The company was founded in September 2011. It was founded by my 2 co-founders and myself. My 2 co-founders are Hermeek, who's our CTO, and Soren, who's our Chief of Cloud Services. He ensures everything is delivered as a service in the 2 clouds we operate, which is AWS and Rackspace. We've raised $12 million to date from some notable venture capitalists in the Valley and in the UK, and some individual investors who, through their experience of operations, have themselves created big data solutions in the companies they have previously worked in. Our management team and the core engineering team has several years of experience in this market. They come from companies like Yahoo, Oracle, Symantec, Kabira, TIBCO, Microsoft. So we're well placed we know what the problem statement is. We know the kinds of solutions our customers need and rely on us to help answer some of the critical business questions. And the team is very experienced in building a technology stack that will help our customers get the right solution that they need. So I'm going to hand this over to Poulomi to talk about how our company BitYota finds customers and how our customers find value in our service, and at what stage of their evolution they find value in our service.
So Dev touched a little bit about the kinds of markets we're going after, mobile games, analytics, and so on. And we're finding those use cases exist in a sort of a number of different companies. So you could be a startup and you've just launched, and now you're trying to figure out, well, I've got this surge of great users, I've got written up in all these blogs. How do I continue that momentum? How do I grow my users? How do I keep the ones I have? How do I drive more engagement and utilization of my mobile app, for example? So that's the first set. So you've gone through sort of the pain and sort of the pressure of sort of launching, and now it's sort of what's next, and what kind of insights do you need to be able to make good decisions about what's next. Or you're a steadily growing company, so you've gone into the next phase. You've got a successful product, whether it's a web or a mobile product. And the decisions you made when you first launched, they're not scaling from a technology perspective. You may have chosen, some of sort of a SQL kind of database. You may have chosen sort of different infrastructure for collecting and managing all this data. And now, because you've had the success, that 1.0, I would say, infrastructure that you made an investment in isn't scaling, and you can't spare the engineers to go sort of rebuild it all the way from scratch, right? Because if you had those extra engineers, you're in the growth phase of your company. You'd rather use them on the product that you're building, that you make money from, and that's the reason for your company, not on sort of building pipes and infrastructure. Or you're a larger company and you've had either a traditional business, or you've had sort of well-defined applications, and now you're starting to play with sort of multi-device LAN. You're starting to add customers through your website. You're doing marketing campaigns online and offline, and now all your data is in different silos. Some of it may be outside of your traditional IT infrastructure, and because you're looking at things like social feeds, things like your own website traffic through Google or Omniture, you've now got critical data about your customers in silos. And it's going to take too long for your IT to bring all that in, normalize it, translate it, and store it. And it's going to be, A, it's too late, because by the time all that happens, those people have left your website. And B, it's a cost infrastructure for your IT. So we're looking at people who are in these three phases. So either you're a small company, you just launched, you're figuring out what to do next, or you're a larger company and you need to make some more critical decisions about your data infrastructure going forward. And so these are some of the things that our customers are trying to answer with this sort of data deluge that they're getting, right? About combining social and in-app purchases and your event stream data, which is your website traffic data. So you want to be able to look at, I have people coming in through mobile, I have people coming through my website, I have people coming in into my stores. Are they the same? Are they different? Is their behavior different? How do I understand what's happening with each of my customer-facing entry points? Again, who are my best users? Simple stuff. How do I increase engagement in a particular area? Where should I be spending my marketing dollars to get these best users, get more of them, and get less of the ones that aren't going to stick around? In the case of the mobile ecosystem, which is thriving but also very fragmented, you have issues around app versions crashing on a particular combination of device and OS version. There might be different access patterns from Samsung versus an HTC phone. And you need to start getting to that level of granularity to really understand how your customers are interacting with your application. Previously, it was very simple. It was either a website or some downloadable client, and that's all they did. Now, there's so many ways to enter into your application, and you want to maximize and have the best experience around all of those.
This slide now talks about the 6 virtues of BitYota as a data warehouse service. So the first one is BitYota is able to handle a variety of data. The one thing it specializes is in being able to work over semi-structured data types such as JSON and XML. In particular over here, BitYota doesn't need to translate these data types into a known structure. There is no upfront data modeling needed to do analytics over these JSON, XML, semi-structured data types. The second aspect of BitYota is velocity. It believes that analytics on fresh data is a key value to the business. It's able to extract temporal understanding of what's happening in the business, for which in a particular case of MongoDB, we have an ability to continuously extract data that is changing from the upstream operational and NoSQL store MongoDB. The third attribute on this page is about velocity, fast analytics. As is a MPP architecture in the cloud, we can scale compute, whereby when extra performance is required, because either more concurrent users want to access the system, or you want your analysis done faster than at any time before. So during seasonal spurts in a business, in particular in a retail or e-commerce business, you will have more data, or the customer will have more data, and they will want to finish all the analytics in either the same time with more data or faster, in which case, using BitYota system, they could simply add extra compute on demand and then relinquish that extra compute capability when that demand or need for higher performance goes away, or indeed keep it if they need to. The cloud allows us to provide elastic burst capacity whenever needed. We're able to set up a multi-terabyte data warehouse service within minutes of provisioning the action to going and setting up a data warehouse. And that could be scaled up and down, and cloud allows us that burst capacity. We offer a system that's highly agile, and the time to market or time to analytics is particularly fast. We integrate well within the BI ecosystem because we are ANSI SQL compliant. This means that analysts will be able to work on the data within BitYota's data warehouse as soon as it's available. Also, remember what I said early on this slide. We will work with semi-structured data, and we will work on that data in a way where, again, no translation to a structured format is required. Therefore, the analyst, as soon as the data is available in the data warehouse service, can start querying the data using SQL, and therefore the time to analytics is particularly fast. We're a service in the cloud. There is no capex for companies to start off with. There is low OPEX, and it's truly low because we operate this as a service. And it's pay-per-use service, which means customers can come start, increase usage of us during seasonal growth spurts, and bring it down. So it's a very flexible way of conducting analytics for companies that really, for many companies who haven't had the ability or the know-how to use data warehousing for analytics in the past, because it was a specialist skill that would be that they would need to have in-house to undertake some of the analytics that they'd require to understand their business. Let's go on to the next slide. Talks a little bit about where BitYota's customers are coming from and the kinds of use cases BitYota is solving. The first one is analytics over data from multiple sources. This continues to be a problem. Analytics over data from a single relational store, such as a MySQL, Postgres, Oracle, IBM, DB2. These are problems that are very well understood. But when data is coming from multiple sources, like Poulomi was explaining, the data could come from an event stream. The data could come from a click stream. The data could come from a social stream. The data could come from a transactional database. It's when you have data from multiple sources, which often by definition the data will come in multiple formats, and you want to do analytics over all this data. You want to be able to join data from your transactional database with your social database. You want to be able to understand which are your heavy spenders, and also which of those are highly active on social networks. You want to be able to join data from multiple sources, and that's one of our strong use cases. Our other second use case is people want to migrate analytics from on-premise to the cloud. They want the easy expansion burst capacity that a cloud data warehouse service like BitYota offers. And they are very willing to move the analytics to the cloud, whilst perhaps not move their entire IT organization to the cloud. We're seeing those use cases. We're seeing use cases of analytics on data from single source, NoSQL operational stores, or relational operational stores. And later slide, we'll talk a little bit more in detail on a use case of data, of analytics on data from MongoDB. We're seeing analytics being required on fresh data. This is where understanding the temporal value of what's happening in the business through the data of the business is particularly important. No longer businesses are satisfied by their reports, which they get at the end of the day. They want to know what's happening every hour, every 15 minutes, such that they get directional information on what's happening in their business. And that's really a classic case of analytics on fresh data. So let's go to the next slide, Rich, where I'll talk about in which markets and industries we're seeing some of this big data analytics in the cloud beginning to take a grip. The markets in which we specialize in, and we're seeing these markets adopt cloud data warehouse servicing for some of the problems I talked about, the use cases in the prior slide. That's advertising, games and entertainment, e-commerce, and productivity communication applications, and that's particularly in the mobile space. So that gives you a sense of where a cloud-based data warehouse service like BitYota is gaining traction. Let's go to the next slide. It goes into a little bit more detail on the specifics of BitYota as a data warehouse service technology. On the left side, you'll see the different data sources where you will get data at different volumes. The variety of data across all those is quite extensive. The data being produced from all those sources will be at different velocity. You'll have website views and clicks coming continuously. Server logs will be coming continuously. Your inventory change could be every hour or every quarter of an hour or every day even. Sometimes even a week, depending on the kind of user. Your user profile data could change every day, every week, depending on how quickly you want to update it based on the analysis that you do. So you can see different sources will produce data at different velocity. The variety will be very different, and the volumes from the source will be very, very different. So let's go on to some of the bullet points on the right side of the slide. We have a cost-effective system with elastic capacity. We have deployed in the cloud environment, which is heterogeneous by nature. We offer scale-out, and in our system, storage and compute can scale independently, which means your data may grow, but your performance and concurrency may not. On the other hand, your performance and concurrency may grow, but your data may be slowly growing. Therefore, the ability to scale storage and compute independently for big data analytics is particularly important, and that's what we offer in the cloud. Storage is flexible. We'll store, as I mentioned previously, semi-structured data types like JSON and XML in their native form, which means no translation, again, required on that data to a structure. We have multiple data types, in particular for new applications, which we're seeing in the mobile area, where being able to partition data by timestamp, by location is particularly important. We offer flexible table layouts. We offer row and column. We offer that on disk and in memory. And we have the ability to query external tables without having to move data. One of the things we're finding, moving big volumes of data is expensive and sometimes very cost prohibitive. And more importantly, people still haven't understood the value in that data. Therefore, being able to query it where the data sits is a particularly important feature of our system. We believe in fast time to analytics. We believe in load and explore the data, again, in its native form without converting it to any structured format. Therefore, a slow, sometimes fragile ETL process is not required in our system, which gives very fast time to analytics. We operate on a ANSI SQL access methodology, which means the entire BI ecosystem is able to work on our data warehouse without the users of the warehouse having to learn either new languages or compromise in a SQL-like language. Those are the main sort of attributes of our data warehouse service in the cloud.
And just to tag on to that point, Rich, the first two, particularly this flexible storage, is what allows us to be performant over varying data structures and allow people to sort of not have to do ETL and so on. So time to analytics and time needed to actually run the analytics is very reliant on how you actually store the data and manipulate it. And we've done some pretty innovative things around there to allow us to do that on all sorts of data and all volumes of data.
Let's go to the next slide. Here is an example of data from MongoDB. MongoDB is being used by an application which is a web and mobile application, as an example. It will have several shards over which the application is storing that data. We will extract that data from Mongo using Mongo's tools or BitYota's own extract tool, which tails the op log, where we do a one-time extract out of Mongo or a continuous extract out of data from Mongo, incremental data of Mongo as that data is changing. We will then, in this example, load that data directly into the warehouse in its native JSON, BSON format. You go back to something we said earlier, the time to analytics is extremely quick. We've extracted the data as it's changed in Mongo or as the Mongo dump tool has put the data outside of Mongo, and we've loaded the data straight into our data warehouse service. We've defined some new constructs where SQL runs directly over JSON. These are MongoDB collections, which allows you to join the data from MongoDB with any other data source that could come from another transactional store or server logs or wherever else. And these joins using SQL are extremely quick. The data can be transformed for higher performance. You can view view all this from your BI tool. You can build your dashboards directly onto our warehouse using a BI tool. The BI tool will work directly over JSON again without having the need to transform it to any structure, which you would have to do otherwise if you weren't using our system for the BI tools to work on JSON data.
And just the reason why we're making such a song and dance about Mongo is we're finding that in these new web and mobile apps where features are changing rapidly and how people are capturing data about those interactions and features is also changing. NoSQL is actually making a huge sort of surge in the development community. So application developers just love the flexibility and agility of NoSQL. So we're seeing lots and lots of operational data going into NoSQL, particularly in MongoDB. But that ecosystem is still developing in terms of being able to analyze that data that's stored by, in such a large way with Mongo. So that just, here's what would happen in a traditional sort of analytical system would be you'd have to extract that data out of Mongo in its JSON format. You'd have to somehow transform it into the data that a traditional data warehouse or a structured data system understands. And that could take time, and they may not map correctly. So you lose a lot of the raw native information. And then every time you change something on the front end, remember these are fast-changing applications, you'd have to redo that process. And then you have to figure out how to store it properly. The traditional data warehouse is not designed for semi-structured data where you might have, very large number of columns. You might have data only in a few columns. So you'd end up having a lot of data skew, which could also impact your analytics. JSON is a native data type. And that can be a scheduled load or a one-time load. We'll go and pull it as often as you want us to, so you don't have to build an extra set of machines or process or monitoring to say, okay, every hour, please go to this and dump this somewhere else, right? So that's all inside our system. And then once it's there, very quickly, using SQL, you can see the third column says analyze data. You're using SQL directly over JSON, like it was columnar, like it was a structured data. And that's an extension that BitYota has done, so on top of JSON. So that allows you to very quickly take a look at this data and say, I see you changing a lot. I don't see the dimension T changing a whole lot, so I don't need to do much about it. And this allows you to give you, for analysts, this is important to understand from quick insight. So you want to say, who are doing X, Y, and Z. How often has something happened in the last time T? You can do that right away as soon as the data is loaded without waiting for any transformation. And then if you're going to run this sort of a query every hour, every day, or you have dashboards that you want to generate, or you want to aggregate information, we also allow you to split that subset of data. So you don't have to split the whole JSON, just those attributes or those columns into structured data types. And the reason you do it is structured data types allow you to have even more sort of regular performance on top of it. You can run a lot more statistical operators on top of that, saying, aggregations, windowing, rank, min, max, etc. So that's something on the right where you can optimize your design for regular analytics, and that's what we do. So we allow both sort of free-form exploration as well as more structured exploration, all within the same database. And what happens is if the data changes, tomorrow if you add a new attribute called my personal score on the left side, none of this has to change. The data stays in JSON. You can take a look at it anytime you want, and then decide in the future what you want to do with it. So this is very important when you're doing things like feature A/B testing. So for a month, you may launch a new feature or do something to a subset of your users. You want to very quickly analyze it and then discard that from your database. That's hard to do in a traditional system.
So BitYota is a service. It's available on Amazon and Rackspace. You're able to launch a cluster in minutes, and this is a multi-terabyte data warehouse service node cluster. We as a service, remove the headache of database management for our customers. Our customers do not have to worry about hardware, which Amazon hardware, which Rackspace hardware, to install any software or upgrades or licenses or anything like that. It's a service that's up and running on service.bityota.com. Thank you.
Well, thanks for that, Dev and Poulomi. A quick question about moving data. Of course, moving terabytes across a wide area network or the internet is very painful. What do you have for facilities to help that process, or are you just worried more about the delta of data that would come in on a regular basis?
So we have two types of customers. We have customers that are already in the cloud. Their data is already in the cloud. Their operations are running in the cloud. Their data on Amazon would be on S3, or at least their data at rest would be on S3. In Rackspace, that would be on cloud files. So there's not so much issue about moving large data in the sense you talked about for those customers. We have customers that are moving to the cloud. There, the data being moved is often only incremental data rather than they want to move, at least in our experience, rather than they want to move the petabytes of data they have on their on-premise stores. So here they're moving incremental data rather than all the data that they've had forever. So those are the two use cases. We haven't come across anyone who has said to us, let's move a couple of petabytes of data from on-prem place X to the cloud.
Sure. And then how do you charge, Dev, from somebody that needs to scale up for some kind of burst analytics capability and scale down. What's your business model there?
So the business model is still very much an hourly. Our pricing is on our website. We will charge only for the number of minutes used for the extra scale out. And once that scale up is no longer required and they scale down to the minimum cluster that they have, they'll only pay for the extra hours or minutes that they've used.
Sure, and then you mentioned that you have Amazon and Rackspace. Did you also build any kind of cloud hosting capability in house?
No, we don't. Our operations are primarily, our operations are only on those two clouds.
Okay, and then as you guys bring this story out there are a number of ways to do big data analytics in the cloud. What's the toughest part for you as far as telling your story and differentiating from all the other things out there?
We differentiate, Rich, on many dimensions. First, interactive SQL-driven analytics warehouse. This is not a batch-oriented capability. This is an interactive analytics capability. That's one. Second, we have a separate sort of compute and storage mechanism where our customers can scale for extra performance when they need it and scale down when they don't need it. Third is time to analytics, where we are extracting and loading data in its native data form. Poulomi talked a lot about the flexibility that we give to an application developer that is relying or has made a choice of JSON and a upstream operational store like a NoSQL Mongo, where the flexibility of change of app and the understanding of that change right down to analytics is something that we're able to offer. So we extract and load data in its native format, and more importantly, we allow analytics using SQL over that native format. So these are some of the ways where we differentiate against other ways of doing analytics in the cloud.
Well, great. Well, kind of a wrap-up question here, Dev. How easy is it to kick the tires on this and see if it's right for me?
Go to service.bityota.com. There are many data sets that are available over there for you to try and kick the tires on. You can load your own data set if that's what you choose, if you want to kick the tires that way. But if you go to service.bityota.com, there is a configuration there that's right for you, and it's very cheap. It's very easy and cheap to try. It's $1 an hour.
All right. Well, that sounds like a great price for testing the concept. So Dev and Poulomi, I want to thank you very much for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Rich, for having us.
Thanks, Rich.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Okay, folks, that's it for the Rich Report. Stay tuned for more news and information on the world of big data.